off the truck and I was getting into the car, started it, put it in first gear and started to roll. That was when it hit me that I'm like, wow, this car that I've wanted for 18 years, I finally have it. As a lot of car enthusiasts do, they look to personalize their cars, make them more their own, different from the other ones that were produced. So I look into it and I learn, wait a minute, Toyota made a all-wheel drive rally car version with a 2-liter turbo engine that made 255 horsepower, while my car over here only made 105. This is the 3rd generation of all-wheel drive Celicas that Toyota made to compete in Group A. First generation was out of a 4th generation Celica, the ST205. The one that has held a lot of titles is the 5th generation Celica, which is the second iteration of the, as they call it outside the US, the GT-Four. Famous rally driver Carlos Sainz, he drove one of those. They were dominating in a race that previously was dominated by Germans. And it was to have a Japanese auto manufacturer dethrone Germans was pretty big news. When this model came out, it was actually the first WRC car that featured an anti-lag system. It was lighter than the previous generation, had more power, a lot of refinements compared to the previous one, and it was on its way to dethroning the ST-205. It would have, but they got caught cheating. Toyota got banned from the WRC for 2 years because of that, and that kind of brought an end to the program. Unfortunately, the car was never imported and sold to the US. As a 17-year-old kid, I told myself, one day I'm gonna own when they're legal to import. There's a couple different ways to go about it. Currently, the market on these imported cars is crazy. A couple of years ago, you could pick up these cars which are almost on the verge of being thrown away in Japan, just the 90s cars in general. You get them cheap if you had some connections to Japan. You could buy them at an auction, set up transport, get the car here, register it, title it, so on and so forth. That required knowing some connections, and you had a little bit of risk. I bought it from an importer in Florida. They're importers, they import the cars, bring them into the country, title them, and then have them in their lots or showrooms. And that's where I got my car from. Fortunately, it was within a short drive distance from some friends I had that have their own shop, and they were able to go do a PPI on the car for me, just so my emotions of wanting the car wouldn't cause me to buy something that was a total peak. It had a fair number of dents, it had some scratches, it needed all new brakes. It was a 27-year-old car, and Toyota paint in the 90s was not good. That being said, they looked at the interior and they said the interior is in really good shape, doesn't smell like cigarettes, which is amazing considering a lot of people in Japan smoke. When they started up the engine, drove it around, they said, it runs like it's brand new. The drivetrain is solid on this car. Yeah, it has some scratches, it has some dents, you're gonna need to paint it eventually, but the bones of the car are excellent. And I took their word on it and negotiated with the importer for a little bit of a better price given the condition of the vehicle. I purchased it, wired the money. Week later, it got delivered. As a teenager, I was like, I'm gonna get the car, I'm gonna do this and that, it's gonna be fast, and in my mind, it was up on a pedestal. And the one thing where I was, before even driving the car, because before I got this car, I hadn't even seen one in person. And the only thing I was, understanding of was like, it's not gonna be quote unquote fast. My last car had 1100 horsepower. So nothing feels fast to me anymore. So I put that out of my mind. I was just hoping that it's gonna be as fun to drive as I thought it was. Did not disappoint. It's actually really fun to drive. Aside from, it took me a good while to get used to the turn signals because they're on the other side of the wheel, and Nothing like sitting on the right-hand side of the car, trying to make a lane change, and then you accidentally turn on your wipers and you miss your turn because instead of turning on the signal, the wipers turn on, you freak out, and you don't want to crash the car or hit someone's. When I was a teenager and into my early 20s, phones didn't really have Bluetooth. So when your friend who owned a stick shift car was driving and had to take a call, most people are right-handed, so they're holding their phone.
Yeah.
I already had some muscle memory of shifting 4 friends. So this car, I've basically fully upgraded the suspension. I've got an upgraded rear sway bar in there, set to the maximum setting in it, and it kind of keeps it neutral now. It doesn't have ABS, it's got a cable throttle, it's got a hydraulic clutch, very tight steering. I changed the steering wheel to a limited edition steering wheel that Renown made for BC Racing. And it's a much smaller diameter, so I've got polyurethane engine mounts. So I feel everything, and it reports everything directly to me. And compared to some of the modern cars out there, like this thing, it does speak to you. It does do what you tell it to do, even if you're gonna tell it to do something stupid. You could tell this car was built to take abuse, to be driven aggressively in tight spaces, and kind of like all of these rally car format cars, they try to keep the weight down, front engine, all-wheel drive. They're made to have a lot of grip so that they can use all their power in low traction situations. In terms of unique, at least nowadays, you rarely even see the US spec 6th generation Celicas, let alone one of these. Just the rarity there, understanding what the car was built for, that's a big part of it. And knowing I'm driving something that A, in terms of automotive history, is special. B, I'm one of the lucky guys out there that owns and drives and modifies one of his teenage dream cars. I'll go to the SoCal Celicas meets. We're all like-minded people. We'll just hang out and look at what's changed on each other's cars, and just in general chat. And everyone's happy. Everyone's likes that we're all doing what we can to keep these old cars alive. I get so many people coming up to me saying, "This is so cool." I'll get the people like, "I love this car in Gran Turismo or Sega Rally." Like, is it real? And then they look inside, wait, it's right-hand drive, this is one of them? Yep, it is. I've even seen there are times I'm stopped somewhere for lunch and people will pull into a parking lot, park next to it, get out, take some pictures, get back in their car and leave. Like I love telling people that this was the cover car for Sega Rally, especially because it's got the sticker on there. And I love telling people that. I love playing the games. Honestly, I love watching videos of this car doing crazy things in Group A races. Like there's crazy videos of the jumps that they did. There was one that rolled and the whole hood, front end, windshield, everything was smashed, and it's still driving down the road to try to complete the race. There are some parts of this car that are hard to get. You can't go to O'Reilly's to get them and things like that. So I would not say to get one of these things as a daily driver. Eventually, I will be completely taking the car apart to fully repaint it in the same color, basically to do a restoration on it. I have no interest in changing the look of the car in terms of, actual body panels. Now, mechanically, I will eventually, I've got a spare engine right now that I'm in the process of building for 2 reasons. One, I want something that when I crank up the power, it'll handle the power. 2, I want to keep the original engine from this car unopened and in good condition. The car, when I got it, only had about 34,000 miles on it. I don't want to open up and modify the original engine. I'd like to keep it all original just to say I have it, to know I have it. And just like with any other part I replaced on the car, I've kept all the original parts. Not that I've ever heard someone say is that this car is not at all good looking car. I've never heard that. From an aesthetics point of view, it is a timeless design. And then if anyone takes a moment to kind of understand the history behind the car, that is what will solidify it as always being a piece of automotive history.
This is Yerba Linda Elite Auto Detailing. They provide best-in-class, full-service interior and exterior detailing, as well as paint protection film to protect your car from rocks and road debris, as well as ceramic coating to protect your car's paint for up to 5 years. Yerba Linda Elite Auto Detailing has been in business for many years and has helped car owners revive their rides. Be sure to schedule an appointment today at www.yerbalindaeliteautodetailing.com.